The villa sat on a small hill, its white walls shining softly in the late afternoon sun. Cars lined up at the entrance, one after another, dropping off men in crisp suits and long traditional robes. Inside, the air smelled of coffee, oud and polished wood. Soft music played in the background, and quiet conversations floated from every corner. In the main hall, the Sheikh walked slowly between the guests, greeting each one with a warm handshake and a few polite words. He was not young, but he carried himself with calm strength. His white headscarf was perfectly arranged, his robe clean and simple, without too much gold or show. People respected him, not only for his money, but for the way he treated others. Near the back of the hall, a maid moved quietly with a tray in her hands. Her name was Rania. She wore a neat uniform, her hair tied back, and simple flat shoes that made almost no sound on the marble floor. She kept her eyes lowered most of the time, but nothing in the room escaped her notice. She had been working in the Sheikh's household for almost a year. Every day she woke before sunrise, made tea for the older staff, helped prepare breakfast, and then stayed on her feet almost the entire day. She never complained. People thought she was shy. Some thought she was not very educated. No one asked. As she walked from guest to guest, offering small cups of coffee, she heard the tone in their voices more than their words. Some were kind, saying thank you and giving her a small smile. Others barely looked at her, snapping their fingers or pointing to their cups without a single word. At one corner of the room, two younger men in expensive watches laughed quietly. One of them lifted his empty cup toward her, without even turning his head. "Hey, coffee," he said in a lazy voice. Rania stepped forward, gave a small polite nod, and poured. He did not look at her. The other man whispered something under his breath and smirked. They spoke in a mix of Arabic and English, confident that no one below a certain level could catch every word. On the other side, near the window, an older woman frowned when Rania accidentally brushed the edge of her chair. "Watch where you go," the woman muttered, waving her away like she was a fly. Rania lowered her eyes and moved back, her cheeks burning for a second, but she swallowed the feeling and went on with her work. She had learned long ago that reacting only made things worse. Silence was safer. Silence paid the bills. From across the room, the Sheikh noticed these small moments. He always did. He saw the way some guests changed their tone when they spoke to him and when they spoke to the staff. He noticed Rania's quiet patience, the way she never rolled her eyes, never made a face, never broke a dish no matter how tired she was. As the evening went on, the main conversation shifted to business. Men leaned closer over low tables, talking about contracts, land, oil prices, and new projects. A few wives and daughters sat nearby, scrolling through their phones or talking softly to each other, more interested in clothes and travel plans. Rania continued her rounds, moving like a shadow along the walls. She refilled glasses, picked up empty plates, and straightened cushions. She understood every word of the Arabic spoken around her, the formal phrases, the jokes, even the rude comments that were not meant for her ears. But no one knew that. To them, she was just a maid from another country, here to work and nothing more. At one point, the Sheikh took his seat at the head of the room. A hush fell as people naturally turned toward him, waiting for him to speak. He sipped his coffee, glanced slowly around, and let the silence sit for a few seconds. His eyes passed over each guest. Then, almost casually, they rested for a brief moment on Rania standing near the far pillar. Then he spoke. His voice was calm but carried easily through the room. He spoke in clear, formal Arabic, the kind taught in schools and heard in sermons, not the quick, shortened version people use every day. He asked a simple question on the surface, but with a deeper meaning beneath it. He said, "Tell me, who here believes that the way we treat those who serve us shows who we truly are?" There was a small pause. Some guests smiled politely, assume it was just one of his wise comments. One man gave a short laugh. Another shifted in his seat, trying to guess if this was the start of a speech or a joke. A few nodded without really understanding the exact words. Some did not catch the full meaning at all. The Sheikh waited. He did not repeat himself. His eyes moved slowly, watching their faces. No one answered. No one wanted to be the first to speak. A few looked down at their phones. Someone cleared his throat, then took a sip of water. At the back of the room, Rania stood still, her heart beating a little faster. She had heard every word. She knew exactly what he meant. She felt the question settle inside her, heavy and sharp, because she had lived the answer every day. Before she could stop herself, before her fear could push the words back down, she heard her own voice, soft but clear. "In truth, my master," she said in Arabic, "it is easy to smile at an important guest. It is harder to be kind to the one who brings the coffee. I think that is where a person's real heart shows." The words hung in the air. Every head turned, searching for the source of the voice. When they saw it was a maid at the back of the room, holding an empty tray against her chest, the hall went completely silent. Even the music seemed to fade. The Sheikh did not move. His eyes were on her now, and this time his expression was not so easy to read. For a long moment, no one moved. Rania stood frozen, her fingers tight around the edge of the tray. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. She had not planned to speak. The words had simply slipped out, pulled by something inside her that was tired of swallowing everything in silence. The guests stared at her, as if she had just stepped onto a stage she did not belong on. One man near the front let out a short, surprised laugh and quickly covered it with a cough. Another guest raised his eyebrows and leaned back, almost amused. A woman in a glittering dress looked at Rania with open disapproval, as if the maid had broken some important rule by speaking in the first place. Most of all, they were shocked by her Arabic. It was not broken or slow. It was calm, clear, and respectful, with the kind of tone people usually heard from teachers or people who had spent years studying. "Did she just?" one of the young men whispered to his friend. In that Arabic, the other murmured back. Rania wanted the ground to open and hide her. She lowered her head at once. "Forgive me," she said quickly, her voice smaller now. "I spoke without being asked." But the Sheikh did not look angry. He watched her for a moment, then rested his cup gently on the table. His eyes were sharp, but there was a strange warmth behind them, like someone who had been waiting to see something and finally did. "What is your name?" he asked her, still in Arabic. She swallowed. "Rania, my master." "And how long have you been working here, Rania?" "Almost 1 year." Some of the guests looked between the Sheikh and the maid, surprised that he was giving her so much attention. A few shifted in their seats, feeling a little uneasy. They began to remember every joke, every careless word they had said, while she was nearby. The Sheikh nodded slowly. "Your Arabic," he said, "is very good. Where did you learn to speak like that?" Rania hesitated. Her instincts told her to keep her answers short, to go back to being invisible. But there was something about his voice that felt safe. "My father taught me, master," she replied. "And at school, we were always told to respect the language, not just repeat it." A small murmur ran through the room. Someone at the back said under his breath, "School? Her father?" As if that idea did not match with the picture of a maid holding a tray. The Sheikh leaned back, thinking. "I see," he said softly. Beside him, a cousin of the Sheikh, a man with a heavy watch and a proud chin, gave a tight smile. He did not like where this was going. He had always treated the staff with a kind of cold distance, never rude enough to be called out, but never kind either. He forced a little laugh. "Our staff are full of surprises these days," he said in Arabic, trying to lighten the mood. "Soon they will be better spoken than us." No one laughed with him. The Sheikh did not respond to that comment. Instead, he turned back to Rania. "You answered my question," he said. "You said that how we treat the one who brings the coffee shows our real heart. Do you truly believe that?" "Yes, master," she said quietly. "I see it every day. Not just here. Everywhere people like me work." Her words were simple, but they landed like small stones dropped into still water. The ripples reached every corner of the room. Some guests felt a prick of guilt. They remembered the times they had spoken sharply, the times they had acted as if the staff were part of the furniture. Others felt annoyed. To them, she was overstepping, even if her tone was respectful. The older woman whose chair Rania had brushed earlier pressed her lips together, refusing to meet the maid's eyes. "All right," the Sheikh said, his voice soft again. "Thank you, Rania." You may go back to your work now." Relief washed through her. She bowed her head, took a slow breath, and moved back toward the side wall. But the room did not feel the same anymore. Eyes followed her in a way they never had before. Conversations slowly started again, but they were different now. Some guests avoided talking about anything sensitive in Arabic, suddenly aware that the words might not be as private as they had thought. Others stole quick glances at Rania, as if she had turned into a puzzle they could not solve. Near the window, the two young men who had laughed earlier whispered together. "She understood us the whole time," one said. "Maybe she only knows the formal words," the other replied. "Maybe she didn't catch everything." But even he did not sound sure. The Sheikh did not speak much for the rest of the evening. He listened more than he talked, watching how people behaved when they thought his attention had moved away. He noticed who tried to act extra kind to the staff now, and who stayed cold. He noticed who still snapped their fingers, and who suddenly began to say please and thank you. When the last guest finally left and the door closed behind the final car, the villa grew quiet again. The staff moved around the hall, clearing glasses and plates. Rania carried a tray back to the kitchen, her feet aching, her mind spinning with everything that had happened. She worried she had made a mistake. What if the Sheikh had only been polite in front of others? What if tomorrow she would be told that her services were no longer needed? As she wiped down a table, the head housekeeper walked in, a serious look on his face. "Rania," he said. Her heart dropped. "Yes." The Sheikh gave a message. The man said, "He wants you to come to his study tomorrow after the noon prayer." She stared at him, unsure she had heard correctly. "Me?" "Yes, you," the housekeeper replied. "Don't worry." He did not sound angry, just interested. When he left, Rania stood alone in the empty hall. The same marble floor, the same walls, the same quiet air. But to her, everything felt different now, as if one small, unexpected answer in Arabic had shifted something she could not yet see. The next day, the villa felt different to Rania from the moment she woke up. The morning light came through the small window of the staff room, but instead of her usual calm routine, she felt a tight knot in her stomach. She dressed in her clean uniform, tied her hair back as neatly as she could, and tried to steady her hands while she made her bed, all through breakfast service. Her mind was somewhere else. She poured tea for the older staff, carried bread baskets to the family dining room, and cleared plates without missing a step. But inside, she kept hearing the same sentence. "He wants you to come to his study after the noon prayer." She had served in the villa long enough to know that the Sheikh did not call workers to his study for small reasons. If a staff member was in serious trouble, they were usually called to the office of the manager, not to the Sheikh himself. That should have made her feel better, but it didn't. She kept thinking of everything she had said the night before, replaying her words over and over. When the call to prayer came from the nearby mosque, the sound floated softly over the walls of the house. After the noon prayer, the villa became quiet for a short while, as it always did. Most people went to rest, answer messages, or drink tea. Rania washed her hands, smoothed her uniform, and took a deep breath. The head housekeeper met her in the hallway, gave her a brief look, then nodded toward the end of the corridor. "The Sheikh is waiting," he said. "Just knock once and enter when he says so." Her legs felt heavy as she walked toward the study. The door was large, made of dark wood, with simple but beautiful carvings. She stopped in front of it and stood for a moment, her hands slightly shaking. Then she lifted one hand and knocked. "Come in," came the Sheikh's voice from inside. She opened the door slowly and stepped in. The study was warm and calm. Shelves lined the walls, full of books. A large, soft rug covered most of the floor. The curtains were half open, letting in gentle daylight. The Sheikh sat behind a wide desk, not buried in papers, just resting his hands on the surface as if he had been waiting for her. Rania lowered her eyes and spoke carefully. "You asked for me, master?" "Yes, Rania," he said, his tone gentle. "Come, sit." There was a chair placed opposite his desk. Workers in the house almost never sat in this room. She hesitated, then obeyed, sitting on the edge of the seat, her back straight. For a moment, the Sheikh did not speak. He studied her face, which showed both worry and a quiet strength. "You were afraid to come here today?" he asked, still in Arabic. Yes, master, she answered honestly. I was worried I had done something wrong. He shook his head slowly. If I thought you were disrespectful, you would not be sitting in front of me right now. I called you because I want to understand you more. Yesterday, you surprised many people in that room. His eyes softened a little, including me. She did not know what to say, so she stayed quiet. Your Arabic, he continued, is better than some of our own children, and your words had weight. That does not come from nowhere. Tell me, Rania, who taught you? What was your life like before you came here? The question opened a door she kept tightly closed most days. She took a slow breath. My father taught me, master, she said. He was not rich, but he loved books. He used to say that if a person learns to read well and speak with care, they can walk with dignity anywhere, even with empty pockets. The Sheikh's eyes brightened a little at that. We lived in a small town, she went on. Our house was not big, but it was full of stories. My father would bring home old books, sometimes with torn covers. He would fix them and then read to us. When I was little, I would sit beside him and copy the letters line by line. She smiled faintly at the memory, then her expression clouded. Later, I went to good school. I like languages. I dreamed of working as a translator one day, or maybe as a teacher. I imagined I would help people who could not read, or help travelers who could not speak the local language. And what happened? The Sheikh asked quietly. Life, she said, and her voice grew a little rough. My father became sick very suddenly. We spent everything on medicine. We borrowed. In the end, she paused and finished softly, he did not survive. After that, there was debt and no steady income. I was the oldest. Something had to be done. She did not cry, but her fingers twisted together in her lap. An agent came to our town, she continued. He said there were good jobs in the Gulf. Not cleaning jobs. He said, office work. Reception, maybe. Better pay than anything we could dream of there. I believed him. I signed the papers. When I arrived, she glanced around the study. The truth was different. You became a maid, the Sheikh said, not as a question but as a statement. Yes, master, she replied. At first, I felt foolish. I had worked so hard at school. I did not tell anyone here about my studies. I thought they would laugh or think I was lying or become angry. I had seen that happen to other workers. Sometimes, it is safer when people think you are simple. The Sheikh listened without interrupting once. His face showed no shock, only a deep sadness and respect. And yet, he said slowly, you chose to speak yesterday. Why? She looked down at her hands. Because your question was about how people treat those who serve them, she said. I see that every day, not just in this house, everywhere. Sometimes it hurts to watch. Yesterday, when you asked, it felt like you were not just talking to the guests. It felt like you were talking to people like me too. The words came out before I could stop them. The Sheikh nodded, his eyes thoughtful. Rania, he said after a pause, if you were given a chance to do different work that used your mind as much as your hands, would you take it? She looked up at him, startled. If it is honest work, she said slowly, and if I can still send money to my family, then yes, of course I would. He leaned back in his chair, as if a piece of a puzzle had just fallen into place. Good, he said softly. Then perhaps your time of being invisible in this house is coming to an end. She did not fully understand what he meant, but she felt something shift, like a small window opening inside a very long tunnel. When he dismissed her, she walked out of the study with the same careful steps as always. But this time, the floor did not feel quite the same under her feet. A few days passed, and life in the villa seemed to return to normal on the surface. Rania went back to her routine. She folded laundry, polished tables, carried trays, and listened to the usual sounds of the house. But inside, nothing felt the same, ever since her talk in the study. The Sheikh's words stayed with her. Perhaps your time of being invisible in this house is coming to an end. He had not told her what he planned. He had not promised anything. But the way he said it made her feel seen in a way she had not felt in a long time. Some of the staff had heard that the Sheikh called her to his study. They looked at her with new curiosity. What did he say? One of the maids whispered in the kitchen. Are you in trouble? Another asked. Rania only shook her head and gave a small smile. No, he just asked me some questions, she said. She did not know how to explain it without sounding as if she was boasting, and that was the last thing she wanted. Then, one evening, the quiet of the house shifted again. New cars arrived at the front gate. The servants hurried to prepare the main hall. Fresh flowers were placed in vases. The good cups and plates were brought out from the cupboard. The household moved quickly but smoothly, like a machine that had done this many times before. Another gathering. Rania was in the kitchen, arranging small pastries on silver trays, when the head housekeeper came in with his usual serious expression. Rania, he said, the Sheikh asked that you be on service in the main hall tonight. He said you should stay in the room, not only come and go. She looked up, surprised. Normally, staff moved in and out quietly, never staying longer than necessary. Did he say why? She asked. The man shook his head. He doesn't have to say why, he replied, but there was no unkindness in his voice. Just do your work well, as you always do. Rania nodded and adjusted her uniform. Soon the hall was full again. Many of the same guests from the last gathering arrived, along with a few new faces. The air filled with greetings, laughter, and the rustle of expensive fabric. Some guests walked in confidently. Others came in with careful smiles, already aware that something had been different last time. The Sheikh sat in his usual place, calm and watchful. His cousin with the heavy watch was there too, talking loudly as if he needed everyone to remember his importance. Rania walked into the hall with a tray of coffee cups and moved slowly between the guests. She could feel some eyes on her. A few people avoided looking at her at all, embarrassed by the memory of her speaking. Others stared in open curiosity, as if trying to decide what to think of her. She kept her face neutral and did her work. After some time, when everyone had eaten and drunk enough to relax, the conversation shifted again to money, deals, and travel. People talked as if nothing serious had ever touched their lives. Then, as if it were a natural part of the evening, the Sheikh changed the direction of the talk. He began to speak in Arabic about responsibility. Not just responsibility to family or business, but responsibility toward the people who serve them every day. Many of us, he said, are judged by the world for our success. Our houses, our cars, our titles. But I believe there is a quieter test. One that happens when no one important is watching. His words floated through the room. Some listened closely. Some only half heard him as they checked their phones under the table. He continued, the test is simple. It is in how we treat those who work in our homes, in our offices, in our streets. The people who might never sit at our table, but without whom our lives would be much harder. There was a slight stiffness in the air. The cousin with the heavy watch shifted in his seat. One of the younger men laughed lightly. Try and keep the mood casual. Yes, we all try to be kind, the man said. But staff also have to know their place. If they become too comfortable, problems start. A few nodded, relieved that someone had said what they were thinking. Rania stood near the wall, her tray now empty. She listened without moving. The Sheikh turned his head and looked at her for a brief moment, then looked back at the guests. He spoke again, and this time his voice was a little firmer. Some of you here, he said, still in Arabic, have spoken in front of my staff as if they do not understand a word you say. You have joked, complained, even insulted them, thinking their ears are closed to our language. A few people froze. Heat crept up their necks. The Sheikh lifted a hand slightly toward Rania. But last week, he went on, this maid answered me in Arabic when the rest of the room stayed silent. Not only did she understand my words, she understood the meaning behind them. All eyes turned to her again. Rania's heart pounded, but she stood still. She felt as if she were standing on a very narrow bridge, with no way to step back. The Sheikh looked at her kindly. Rania, he said, addressing her in front of everyone, yesterday I asked you in private about your life before this place. Today, I will ask you a simpler question. As someone who works quietly among us, what have you learned about how people show their true character? The room grew even quieter. It was clear now that this was not just about her. It was about all of them. Rania took a slow breath. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice, when it came, was steady. "I have learned," she said, "that anyone can be polite when they want something. But the way a person speaks to someone who cannot give them anything back, that is where their real nature peers." Her words were gentle, not accusing, but they landed like a mirror placed in front of each person in the hall. No one laughed this time. The Sheikh let a long moment pass, giving the sentence time to sink in. Then he added quietly, "And I have also learned something, that those we think are the least important among us are often the ones who see us the clearest." Around the room, faces shifted, some to shame, some to thoughtfulness, some to stubborn denial. Rania stood there, feeling exposed but strangely lighter, as if a weight she had carried alone for a long time was now shared with the room, whether they wanted it or not. The gathering slowly broke into small, uneasy conversations after that. But the easy laughter from earlier did not return. Some guests tried to act as if nothing had changed. They spoke about business again, but their eyes did not shine the same way. Others sat quietly, turning Rania's words over and over in their minds. A few could not even look in her direction. The cousin with the heavy watch cleared his throat and forced a smile. "Well," he said, trying to sound light, "we all make mistakes with our tongues sometimes. Life goes on." The Sheikh looked at him for a long, calm moment. "It does," he agreed softly. "But it should not go on in exactly the same way." That simple sentence was more serious than any angry speech. One by one, the guests began to leave. They shook the Sheikh's hand, but some of them felt they were being weighed in a way that had nothing to do with money or status. A few said quiet greetings to staff on their way out, something they had never bothered to do before. Rania stayed at her post until the hall was almost empty. Her legs ached, but she did not move until the last guest stepped outside. When the doors finally closed, the house returned to its softer, quieter sound. The workers came in to clear the tables. Dishes clinked, chairs moved, voices murmured. Rania turned to take an empty tray back to the kitchen when she heard the Sheikh's voice behind her. "Rania," he called, "stay a moment." She stopped at once and turned back, holding the tray close to her. The Sheikh stood near the middle of the hall now, not on his higher seat, but on level ground. He looked at the staff as well as at her. "Come closer," he said. She walked toward him slowly, feeling every eye on her. The other workers paused their cleaning, unsure whether they should stay or leave. The Sheikh gave them a small nod that told them it was fine to stay where they were. He looked at Rania, and there was a clear kindness in his gaze now, without any shadow. "You have carried yourself with dignity," he said, "even when some people did not treat you with the respect you deserved. You have worked hard, stayed humble, and kept your pain to yourself. That is not a small thing." Her throat tightened. She did not know how to answer, so she simply lowered her head. He continued, "When you spoke in Arabic, you did not insult anyone. You did not raise your voice. You simply told the truth. And sometimes truth needs a voice that is not from a high seat, but from the back of the room." The other staff exchanged glances. Some smiled softly. One of the older cleaners wiped at his eye quickly, pretending something had gotten into it. The Sheikh turned slightly so that both Ronnie and the staff could hear every word. "I have been thinking," he said. "I do not want your knowledge to be wasted polishing tables and carrying trays forever. From next month, if you agree, I will move you to a different position." Rania's had snapped up, shock in her eyes. "A different position?" she repeated. "Yes," he said. "I need someone in the office who can read well, write clearly, and help with letters, messages, and translation. Someone who understands both the language and the people. I want you to be that person." For a moment, she could not breathe. "Master, her voice shook. "Are you sure? There are many people more." He lifted a hand gently to stop her. "There are many people with more comfort," he said, "but not many with more heart. Your father taught you to walk with dignity, even with empty pockets. Let that teaching grow here. Your salary will increase. Your working hours will be more regular. You will have time to study, if you wish, and you will still be able to send money to your family." Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them back, not wanting to spill over in front of everyone. Her hands trembled around the tray. "Thank you," she managed to say. "I don't know how to thank you enough." "Live well," he replied simply. "And do for others when you have a chance, what you wish others had done for you. Behind her, a soft, sincere round of clapping started. It was not from the rich guests or important visitors. It was from the cooks, the cleaners, the drivers, the other maids. They applauded quietly at first, then a little louder, their faces full of pride. The cousin with a heavy watch, who had lingered at the doorway, watched this with an expression that was half ashamed, half thoughtful. Later that night, he would sit alone and remember the way he had spoken in front of the staff, believing no one truly heard. For the first time, he would feel something close to regret. That same night, as Rania walked back to the staff quarters, one of the younger maids hurried up beside her. "You did it," the girl said, smiling wide. "You are going to the office." Rania shook her head gently. "It's not that I did it," she said. "The Sheikh chose to see me. That is the real difference." The girl nodded slowly, understanding more than a word said. Later, when Rania lay on her small bed, she stared at the ceiling for a long time. Her mind went to her family far away, to her father's voice reading to her by the light of a weak lamp.
Thanks for watching my video. Like, subscribe and share.